Hey cuties, welcome back to amanquahpam. Today we're going to sew this dress. This lace dress is Kabba and Slit for a client of mine. So kindly stay tuned and please subscribe and leave your comment. Thank you. To sew this Kabba and Slit, we are going to need a bridal satin for the lining to line inside, and then we need our lace. The lace is 4 yards and the bridal satin is 4 yards as well. So let's go. We are going to actually divide it into two yards will be for the slit and 2 yards for the top, which is the cover. So this is the 2 yards, and I'm going to cut the slit. So I just fold into two, cut the slit. From her navel down to her knee, upper, like the above the knee. Then you measure her length and then you cut. You measure the length from her navel to her knee, but you have to add 2 inches or 3 just to put in the thread, the pull-up thread, the string. So when she wears it, it's not a long skirt. It doesn't need this a zip. It's a slit, so you have to just put the thread, which is the strap that you create, so that she can pull it. So we are cutting the bottom guarded skirt that will attach to the main slit. So now we are going to cut our top. So we'll measure up to her waistline, and then you take. Anyway, that's how I sew mine, just to indicate under bust. She has tummy, to be honest. So if her waist is from her shoulder to her waist is 17, I'll take 2 inches off. So I make it from her shoulder to her waist 15, and then you just take, that's it. So we are going to measure her across back, which is 14. So divided by 2 is 7. So the 7 will just add like 1 inch. So when you sew, you don't sew inside her actual across back. So that's how it is. So we measure her neckline is 3.5 down, because we don't want it too wide. We just measure 3.5 also, and then we curve it the way you want it to be. Yeah. Measure from her, like her armhole should be 9.5. Then you take 1 inch off, which will make it 8.5. Then you curve it. Actually. We are going to measure her waistline. The underbust. Since I told you she has tummy, so we are not going to cut or put the garters on her tummy, or the dress way to her waistline or something. So we are making it underbust like. So we divide the waist into 2, like the measurement into 2, divide it again into 3, into 2 again, and then we measure the amount you get. You put it there, you add 2 inches to it. That's for your allowance and your darts, so that you don't run out of space or allowances. Yeah. So once you're done, you got. Sorry, I pinned it. I don't pin my work, but for you need to pin it. Okay, let's go cut.
cuties, we are going to use the front to cut the back. I am not going to cut it exactly the same way. I mean, the same measurement, but we will add like 2 inches to the zip allowance, which is you can see the way I've laid it onto the main garment, like the back that we're going to cut. You just measure from the fold 2 inches, and then when you get the 2 inches, you place your front on it, on that thick line, the line that you got. Then you pin it down and you cut. So you cut it the way you want it. Like you can cut it, the neckline the way you want it, any way you want it, but then you use it to cut. We are going to cut our sleeve. As I said, the sleeve I wanted is actually a 3/4 sleeve, but with a puff on the shoulder. We are not going to line it, so we just measure the allowance that we want. If let's say her armhole is 8.5 or 9 inches, you have to add about like 4 or 5 inches. It depends on how puffy you want the sleeves to be. You see how puffy you want it to be. So you add the inch you want, and then you measure the length. Actually, the length is 3/4, so its length is 16. So you just add 1 inch to it for the allowance, the sewing, the seam allowance. Yeah. We are cutting our slit, so we use the already cut slit, which is our pattern for the lining. We are going to cut it that way, and then we are good to go. But I don't know why I am leaving that allowance, but anyway, maybe I don't know. Let's go. So we are cutting a guarded bottom slit attachment in it. We are going to, since we want it to hang in, but not, we need the style of the lace. You see how stylish it is. We want it, so you just measure 5 inch and you leave it, and then you cut it that way. So about to cut the flare for the side of the Kabba. We need to put at the side as a design. Yeah, so as I said, normally when I'm cutting my flare, instead of me cutting, just measuring, I'll just, you see the tip, you measure the length that you want. If it's 10 inches, like 10 inches long, you measure 10 inches long round. If it's 8, you do, but this one I want 8, but I'll measure 10 so that I can come down 3 and then measure the length, the width of it, the width that I want, and then I'll just cut it. That's it. I will know that this is the width I cut. And when you're cutting this one, it's different from you cutting for skirts or for like when you have to add like a seam allowance for a zip. Yeah.
Forever is the strangest thing. It's shorter than you think. No think.
I'm actually cutting this just to join with the flare that I've cut, so that I can put it at the side of the Kabba. So I'll just fold it like a pleat, just to fill in the width or the width of the flare. So that's how it's gonna be. So cuties, we are cutting our top actually. So we are going to use the same way that we use for the slit for the Kabba actually. So we will lay our main garment on the satin, and then since we want it hanging and we will need that star, the star at the edge, the design at the edge, we just take like 2 inches off the down, 2 inches, and then we cut. So when we do our knitting and folding and stitch, we'll still have this design left hanging, and it's cute. All right.
Longing is the music of our sphere. The gift of life is never more or less. It starts at any time you like and ends in just a wink.
So we have to take this to our machine and sew the neckline, and then we do the same with the back as well. But then we do knitting at the edge of each fabric and then folding 1 inch and sew. Now we need to do our dots.
So you measure from the shoulder to her apex, which is her nipple, and then you measure to her waist. To her nipple. Sorry. Then you measure to her waist, and then you measure down. Okay, but then you measure from the fold, which is 4.5. Normally for a bigger person, but if for a slim person, it will be like 4 inch. But if it's a little bit thick, you measure 4.5. Then on the waistline, you measure 1/2 inch next to where you measure your 4.5. So in this case, it will be like 5 inch from there. Then you pin it as I am pinning, and then you'll be able to grab it, because when you pin it, you'll be able to trace it at the back, and then you won't get confused or you won't repeat it the same procedure. But this one, you're able to trace it, and then it's easier that way. And then you pin it, you grab it and pin it, take it to your machine. And so you have to repeat the same thing with the back as well. So let's go. Wait, before you get confused, the back, you are going to do the same with the front, but then you have to leave like 2 inches allowance for your zip. Before you measure your 4.5 inches. So in all, you get like 7.5. Now let's fix our zip. We are doing as a visible zip, but it's exposed zip. There we go, we are done with our zip. See how nice it is? So now we are joining our main fabric together. We are joining both fabric together, like our main garment together. We join the front and back. So it will be like it should be the right side facing the right side, and then you pin it together. You pin the shoulder as well as the body. Do as I do, as I always do. You measure the bust, the actual size you want. When you measure, the allowance you get behind, you divide into two and then share equally among each side. You repeat it with the waist and then the hip. Now take it to the machine and sew, and then you do that with the shoulders as well. So our flare, we'll stitch at the edge of it, and then we turn and iron, and then we do this one. We join these two together. You join it together, and then you take it to the machine. You sew it, you do the knitting, and then you top stitch it. So now we are going to join our sleeve actually. So you measure the armhole, which is like 9 inches, but then you have to get some allowance, like 2 or 3 inches left allowance for your small garden shoulder or something, the puff. And then the cuff, which is actually what do we call a short sleeve. So you just measure to her armhole, like the around arm, and then you take it to the machine and sew. As you can see, we've joined our flare and then the design together, so we will add it later on to our garment. Now we are done with our, like, we've joined them together. Now we want our across back. We need to get across back, and it's actually 14, but then the allowance that you get, you see 15 over there, you divide into 2 the allowance, then you share it among each side. Okay, you share it among each side. Already I left 1 inch there, which is like supposed to be like 14, but I made it 15. You see, then you measure down to like 8.5, because when you cut, the armhole will expand by itself, so you don't need to cut the 9. So now we are joining our sideways flare to the waistline, where this waist is supposed to be. As I said, she has told me so it should be under bust somehow, and then we just join it together, but we sew in between the flare and that top, like the lace, so that it will be like, you see, that's how it is. Take it to the machine and sew. You see how I'm doing it? Like, you sew in between it. You pin it down, and then you take it to the machine, stitch on it, and it will be stuck to the waist. So we are done. Joining a side flare. So now we are going to add a sleeve. Okay, so right now we are completely done. So we need to add a sleeve to the main garment, which is the Kabba. So we're gonna join it. So you join it the right side to the right side, and then you pin it together. You pin it nicely and tightly. Take it to the machine, and then you sew on it. Once you're done, you do your knitting. As you are doing your work, once every time you take your fabric to the machine to sew, kindly do a knitting, like knit it so that the work becomes neat but doesn't look shabby, because the satin tend to fray a lot. So if you don't knit it, it will fray and it becomes some wavy. Now we are actually done. After inserting the sleeve and taking it to our machine to sew, we are done with the Kabba. We are heading towards the Slit. Here we have with our Slit. What we are going to do is, we have the front and back. There's no dart involved. It's just simple and easy. What you need to do is just, you add the right side to the wrong side of the lace, and then you take it to the machine. You don't even take it to the machine. You go to the knitting section, and then you knit it to join it together. You actually repeat with the back as well. You do that, and then the bottom goddess attachment, you take that one to the machine and knit it all around so that it will stack together. We are going to join our
a slit together. So we will actually join um the right side and the right side together. We just put both together, and then we go ahead and pin them so that it will be firm and tight. You pin them down on both sides. Okay, so now we are done with our pinning. We have to measure our waist. But well, it's a slit. We know we have no zip and anything like that. So we either use the hip measurement. So you measure the hip, you divide it into two, you measure the hip, and then the allowance you get, you divide into two, and then share equally on both sides. Yes, you see that you get the exact measurement here you are looking for. You repeat the same thing from all the way to the bottom, and then you draw your line if you're a beginner. But if you're not a beginner, you already mark it, so you know where the machine is supposed to pass. So you just take it to the machine and then straight stitch it straight. There's no curve. But if you want to curve it too, you have the right to do so. You can just curve it a little bit so that she'll feel at ease. Like when she's walking, she won't feel restricted. You know, some people don't like that, so that's what you do. So you take it to the machine, and then you sew nicely and do your knitting before you join the bottom together. As I said, the bottom, we are done with it. So once you are done with this one, the skirt, the one lying down, you just do your knitting, and then you join them together. You join the bottom to the main slit, and we are good to go. Okay, it has to be right side to right side. Pin them all over, pin them around. But wait, you have to do your gathering. Take it to the machine, do your gathering. This one, we just wanted it to do, what do we call it, pleat. So we didn't do the gathers, rather we did pleats. I changed my mind. We did the pleats. So you joined. I've been saying gathering all throughout. You know that it was actually a pleated. So rather you pleated like the school uniform. The way you do the school uniform all around, you pull it, and you stitch. All right. See you on the flip side. Yeah. So now we are done. We've joined our bottom to the main slit. Now we are going to add what do you call it, rope to the waistline, the waist stroke. So you just measure, look for the middle part. That's where you put the pulling space will be. So you measure, you just pin, as I said, you pin. Repeat myself. You measure the length of the slit, her length though, and then the rest of the, what do we call it, inches left, you measure. You see, you measure and then put the rope inside and pin it close to it. But you pin the what do we call it, the rope to the garment so that it won't move around. So you'll be able to pin it all around, and then it'll be very easier to go and take it to the machine and then you sew. Yeah. In that case, next time when you go an inch taller, you can remove it and restitch it. Like seriously. Hey cuties, once I take it to the machine and stitch all around, I am done. That's why I'm still here. Anyway, thank you for sticking out with me. I wish my client was here to wear it for you to see, but I'll try and put it on my mannequin and see how best it will look on the mannequin. But I prefer they wearing it and then sending me the picture. But in this case, it's still good. Thank you for watching.